What's up, YouTube Gen X? Okay, let me do a video on my take of the Miami Heat. Now, obviously, they're not playing too well. And sometimes you have, bad periods. Every team has it where they're not playing well. It is what it is. But for me, I've been seeing flaws with their team from day one. It was just a matter of, are they going to figure it out and make the change? But I haven't really seen it. That's why I'm making the video. Now, first, let me say this. Championship caliber teams always have a similar format. You have your 2 star players, and you have anywhere from 4 to 6 championship quality role players that are not your bench warmers. Once again, a bench warmer is not a role player. Quite frankly, to win a championship, you need star players, your 2 of them, and you need your 4 to 6 role players. And without your role players, you don't win. Are they as valuable as your star players? No, but you need them. It's almost like how a car operates. There are certain parts in the car that aren't that valuable when you compare it to other parts. But without that part that may be less valuable, right, you don't have it, or it's broken, your car's not going to work. Or it's going to be running and not really running efficiently. It is what it is. So with that being said, that's a role player. For example, look at the Lakers. If you want to look at our star players, we have Kobe, Powell. Role players, Ron Artest, Andrew Bynum, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom, Steve Blake, Shannon Brown, Matt Barnes. Right? So we have 7 of them, which is, above average for the most part. So that's what you need to win. You take away Lamar Odom from our team, we're not winning a championship. Does that mean that Lamar Odom is just as valuable as Kobe Bryant? No, but without Lamar Odom, we are not winning anything. And that's how it is. You look at your Boston Celtics when they won. Apart from their big 3, or their big 2, which was Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, they were their star players. Ray Allen kind of took on the whole role player sort of role. They had Ray Allen, James Posey, Sam Cassell, P.J. Brown, Leon Poe, Eddie House. Eddie House is one of those borderline players. Depending on your system, he can be a role player, or if not, he can be a bench warmer. Right now in Miami, he's a bench warmer, but on that championship Celtic team, he was definitely a role player. Am I missing anybody? Oh, Big Baby, Glenn Davis. So you had your role players. You look at San Antonio when they, won here and there. They had their fair share of role players as well that come through and get the job done. And if you take them away, you're not winning. Even when we had Shaq, Rick Fox, Robert Horry, Brian Shaw, Horace Grant. We had A.C. Green for one of them, Glenn Rice, Derek Fisher. So if you look at that, you have to have your prominent role players. And a role player, a role player when he's pretty much a name that most basketball people know. Your bench warmer is kind of like, who are you talking about? But a role player, for the most part, is, someone that your everyday, slightly above average basketball fan is going to know. That's the recipe to win, in my opinion. Now, here's the problem. Star players are going to be expensive, obviously, but your role players are going to cost money. They're not going to be cheap. Your bench warmer, you can give them, if they're lucky, maybe $2 million a year, which is a bit much. You pay them the league minimum or whatnot. You keep them around. But your role player is going to cost you anywhere from $3 to $9 million. It is what it is. It's going to cost you anywhere from $3 to $9 million, which is pricey. That's why for most teams, the format is, okay, we're going to give 2 guys big-time contracts, right, and then we're going to use the money to get our role players that are going to cost money. Now, you can hope to be lucky enough and get a rookie that turns into a good role player like the Spurs have with DeJuan Blair. he got drafted and he turned into an important role player. Or, you know, get lucky in a trade or a free agent signing where you get a throw-in player. That's how we got Shannon Brown. He was a throw-in player when we traded Vladimir Radmanovic to the Bobcats for Adam Morrison and Shannon Brown. He was a throw-in player, but he turned out to be a significant role player, so we got lucky there. But for the most part, you know, it's going to cost you money. On average, anywhere from, I would say, $4 million. I think that's how much we're paying Ron around that area, $5 million. So it's going to cost you money. So you have to be very careful in building a team because you have to have money to pay them. And the league only gives you what? That mid-level exception. And what's the mid-level? What, $5 million or whatnot? So it's going to cost you money. Now, here's where the Heat fucked up. Excuse me. They took the gamble, and they said that as long as we have this big three, we don't need to worry about role players. We can put whatever players around them, decent players, players that may be able to just only knock down a three, and we're going to win. See, your role player has talent. Let's get that straight. A lot of the times, your role player was the main guy in college. So he was like a superstar in college, or he was supposed to be a superstar in the league that didn't pan out. So your role player is a talented guy. But they said, you know what, we're going to take true bench warmers, and as long as we have our big three, that's all we need. We don't have to be conventional. They took the gamble. They said that our big three is going to be different from your regular formula where you have your two stars and now you have to build and get your role players here and there, which is very difficult to do. It's very difficult. You look at a big-time player, and that's pretty simple. You know they're going to get a max deal, so there's no real negotiation over how much you're going to pay them. He's a max contract guy. He's going to get the max deal, so it's just more so where do I want to play. Anywhere I go, I'm going to get a max deal. But your role player, that's where you're negotiating because they're talented players. And they took that bet, which was a flawed gamble. And you're seeing that now. It was a flawed gamble. When you look at their team, it's a flawed team, once again, because they don't have the championship quality role players. But also, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade play the same position. They play the same exact position, and Chris Bosh does not want to be a true low post player. Now, he can, operate there. I will give him that, but that's not where he wants to be. It's not like Dwight Howard where I want to be in the paint. Right, I want to be in the paint, or even like an Amari Stoudemire where, hey, give it to me in the paint, even though Amari, you can give it to him at, outside the key or whatnot, but, they can operate in the post, and they want to operate in the post. So if you look at their team, they didn't get guys that complement each other. They got good players, but they don't complement each other. Yes, they're not the first team to have a big three or a big two or whatever, but typically you have superstar players that complement each other. So one guy may play the point guard, the other guy plays the shooting guard or the small forward, and the other guy plays the power forward, or more than likely they play the center. It is what it is. You see that in Boston in terms of their big three. You look at San Antonio, I don't want to say it's a big three, but you look at how they're set up with Parker, Ginobili, and Tim Duncan. Lakers, obviously, Kobe and Powell. You look at the Thunder, Westbrook and Durant in terms of they play, like they complement each other. They're not encroaching on what they do. But you look at the Heat and they encroach on each other. They play the same position. They're the two best guys at their position after Kobe, in my opinion, in terms of that two shooting guard that can play the three. So by default, they can't fit into your traditional offensive scheme in terms of whatever you want to run. But when you look at their offense, it doesn't account for that. You know, you have to go outside of the box. When I look at their team, they need to be running an offense that no one's ever ran before, something different, because their team looks different. It has to be off the wall. I don't know how it looks like. I'm sure that, you know, there's some guy out there that can mastermind some sort of scheme that they can say, hey, you know, this is what you need to be effective, like the triangle, in terms of how the triangle is supposed to be ran without a point guard, or you don't need a point guard to run it. So if you look at that, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it can be done. They just haven't done it yet. You know, they thought that they were going to come through and pretty much all-star their way through everybody. Our big three is going to be better than your traditional squad where you have, you know, your 2 or your 1.5 superstars and your role players. We're going to be better than that, and they were sadly mistaken. Now, once again, I'm not saying that they can't be good, but in terms of how they play now, it's not going to work. And it's going to be very difficult because they don't have role players, and they will not get role players, your championship caliber role players. Why? Because they can't afford them. It costs money. You know, they're going to be reduced to compelling people to take more money for the shots to win a ring. That may work with your older veteran that's ready to win a ring, and he can take, you know, $2 million a year because he has money saved up. But for your young guy who's a role player, but, hey, I'm trying to make money, you know, I don't have big-time endorsement deals, so I need my, you know, $7 million a year, so I can't afford to come to the Miami Heat and take $2 million or $1.5 million. I don't even care if they don't have income tax in Miami. It doesn't matter. You know, unless LeBron and Dwayne are going to cut me a check every month, it's not going to happen. You know, if they want to pay me under the table, but it's not going to happen. So they're not going to attract championship quality role players. And the dumb part about it is their flexibility is going to be even less because in terms of the way their contracts work, they make less money this year, but they're going to make more money as the years go along, and they're going to have less money overall, especially when you factor in the possibility that the league may lower the salary cap. So they're in a bad position. They can't become your traditional team. You know, if it was me, okay, maybe I would get LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, but I would not have signed Chris Bosh because he does not want to play the post. They have no post game. They were better off getting a decent role player that can give you 15 points, 10 rebounds a game. That's what they're better off. I mean, to be real, they may have been better off keeping Michael Beasley and using that Chris Bosh money to sign, because I believe Chris got the biggest deal because the other two were going to make, Dwayne and LeBron were going to make up their money in endorsements. So they took a little bit of a pay cut, and Chris got most money because Dwayne and LeBron can make more money outside anyways. So it really doesn't matter. But they could have used Chris's money, and they could have got 3 players, maybe even 4 players, 4 good championship quality role players that they didn't do. So you look at their squad, and they're flawed. Now, they have their moments where they are unstoppable. You know, those periods where LeBron and Dwayne and Chris, they're all on point. You know, they're playing that all-star sort of basketball where it doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, you're playing good D, but they're just hitting big-time superstar jump shots, and, you know, they're making those sort of moves. They have those moments, don't get me wrong, and when they have those moments, no one's beating them, but that's not how you win. That's not how you win. Good teams win because they have a good system. That beats you. So you look at the Lakers, Kobe doesn't beat you. It's the triangle that beats you. It's the triangle. The system beats you. The fact that we have the star players, the role players, the coach, the offensive scheme, that's what beats you down at the end of the day. They don't have that. They're too easy to defend because they play conventional, but they don't have a conventional team, so it looks odd. That's why they look confused. They don't know what to do. It's easy to think that, oh, you know, well, we have this big 3, so we can just kind of free ball it. When I look at their team, in my opinion, I see a lot of free balling. I don't really see a system. I just see a whole lot of isolation and, you know, whatever bullshit, let me drive and kick. just let me drive randomly and kick the ball out to an open guy. I just don't see a scheme. What do you guys run? They don't have it. So overall, from a playing standpoint, on the court standpoint, they have some flaws, and from a personnel standpoint, they have some flaws. They do. And they took a big gamble. And already it's not working. The fact that you got people saying, should we trade Mike Miller, or, hey, let's wait till Udonis Haslem comes back, to me that already shows that it's a failure, because the whole point of having a big three was to say it doesn't matter who else we have. So there should never be a point where they're worried about a player getting injured. It's not like the Lakers or another team where if we lose a star player, we're going to feel it. If Kobe goes out, if Powell goes out, we're going to feel it. Right? With them, it's not supposed to happen. Or, excuse me, it's not like the Lakers where if we lose Andrew or we lose Lamar or Derek Fisher, we're going to feel it. We're going to hurt. For them, they're saying, we don't need all of that. As long as we have our big three, it doesn't matter. And it's flawed. It is flawed. So, it is what it is. I'm not saying it can't work for all my Miami people out there. I'm not hating. I like the guys. Don't get me wrong. I love LeBron. I love Dwayne. I'm whatever on Chris. But, I really like the guys. But just the way they play, it's not going to happen. They have an unconventional team, so they need an offensive style that's going to work for them. And in terms of, making any changes, they're already done. It is what it is. The only trade that they can possibly make is potentially moving Chris Bosh, but, you look at his money and no one's going to want that money because he's not a max deal guy. He's just not that good of a player. I hate big men that don't play big. I'm sorry. If you're a big guy, you need to be in the post doing what you have to do. But he doesn't want to do all that. So, that's my vid. Y'all take it easy. God bless.